Morning guys, something a bit different for you today. A buddy of mine asked me what modifications and upgrades I've made to my G40 and BBR set. So I was going to run through some of the things that I've done. So starting off from HBG, I bought some of the fuel gauge markers. Really useful just for indicating what aircraft have got movement wise left, particularly when you've got various aircraft from different locations coming into the same attack. You can just identify what's got what movement left. Next, I've magnetized all the aircraft carriers, all the aircraft, and have made homemade flight stands. So all the carriers have got a minimum of 2 landing spots. The Japanese and the American carriers, on the basis that they're more likely to go for super carriers, have got 3 landing spots. All the magnets are loaded from underneath, as you can see there, and they're all polarized the same way, so all the flight stands and all the carriers are all interchangeable. The flight stands themselves are homemade. So starting at the base, they're made from an M4 high thumb nut. I drilled through the thread inside, which meant I could mount a 4mm acrylic rod through the middle, again with a magnet on the top. I've done these in 3 sizes, so I've got taller ones for strategic bombers, a middle size for tactical, and a smaller height for the fighters. While we're talking about planes, I've also, I don't know if you can see that, picked up the P40 for China, and I've also picked up a flight of Hellcats for the American Pacific Fleet. Okay, next up, complexes. I think everyone's familiar with the cardboard chits that you get in the box that no one can pick up. So scouring eBay, managed to pick up some second-hand industrial complexes from one of the earlier titles. So they're used as the minor complexes, and I believe it was from a futuristic Risk game. I remember seeing them on one of Young Grasshopper's videos, one of the bigger industrial complexes. So I use those for the majors. Again, for the airbase and naval base, I've made my own roundels. Again, easier to pick up with the colour as well. They're more identifiable on the board as well. While we're talking about roundels, I've also made national roundels for each player. Again, these are a lot thicker than the outer box cardboard ones. I'll show you how, or tell you how I made them in just a minute. But on the back, they've also got just the identifying stickers that you can chuck these out all over the board for your combat moves. Easily identifiable, so you shouldn't be able to miss any of your attacks. Okay, so the roundels started off life as these 20mm MDF chips. They were bought off of Amazon, really cheap. So again, you can see the thickness there, really easy to pick up compared to the cardboard chits out of the box. So what did I do? Spray painted them all black, and then using Photoshop, I scaled the roundels to 19mm, just so they sit within the diameter of the wooden chip. Printed them on photo paper, and then used a 3/4 hole punch just to punch all of those out. Glued them onto the top of the wooden disc, and then I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but the sort of the glossy finish you can see there, that was achieved using acrylic gel which I applied to both sides just to seal the roundel to the wooden disc, but it also means they glide quite well across the board, so they don't get stuck. Next up, our little gaming group was always getting confused with what naval vessels were in a sea zone, particularly when it came to destroyers and submarines. So what I chose to do was to take a uniform approach, and I just top and tailed each destroyer with a grey stripe, and each submarine has got its has got its nose and its tower painted grey. Just helps with identification purposes, so you're not going into a sea zone thinking it's a cruiser when actually it's a destroyer, and it just makes that life a lot easier. Okay, next up we got IPCs, or the game money. I got fed up of using the paper money out of my anniversary set, so just bought a cheap second-hand set of poker chips. Just marked them up double-sided. We just find them a lot easier to use than the paper money. I've also made some combat move or non-combat move markers, particularly if you're planning ahead. You can just chuck those on the board just to identify where you want particular units to move. And then we've got the hit dice. So I did buy a set of young grasshoppers dice, which just speed up the game no end. Means you can throw all your attacking dice at the same time rather than by individual number. I then bought a set of cheap blank dice on Amazon, and just used the sticky dots just to identify the hits there as well. They are obviously in the same color code, so they can be used on both sides of the table. Last up, we just got some of the modifications for Sire Blood's BBR rule set, where Canada is its own playable nation. So I just used a lot of the spare UK units that I had. So we've got just a white paint just to identify them. So we've got the Air Force, infantry, tank. We've got the mechanised infantry, artillery, AAA, and the Navy there. And I also managed to pick up some oil drums for the territories that contain the oil derricks. And these are just 0.0 scale oil drums from a model railway shop, but they fit the bill brilliantly. So I hope that just illustrates some of the things I've got going on just to make our gaming experience that little bit better. Thanks for watching. Okay, I've brought you out here just to show you a current work in progress, and that's in regards to the IPC tracker. Just zoom in, and you can see we've got the generals of the various nations all mounted up, just to identify where they are on the IPC tracker. These are obviously going to get painted, so they should look really smart once they're done. We just pan back and you can see the rest of the board all set up for a YouTube BBR game coming up in September. Thanks for watching.